I realized that the most important thing in life is to have reliable people around you who can help in difficult times. I was unlucky to find out that my wife had cheated on me, and I discovered it completely by accident. I had to make a difficult but extremely important decision that would affect the rest of my life. My wife, Amanda, struggled to contain her emotions as we strolled across the campus, leaving behind our youngest son's dorm room. After just finishing helping him settle in, Amanda and our neighbor Kathy, whose son was rooming with ours, were both teary-eyed. "It's surreal to see our boys all grown up," Kathy remarked, reaching for a tissue from her purse. Amanda took one of the tissues offered. "It really is hard to fathom," she replied, dabbing at her eyes. "Now they're faced with so many decisions on their own." My thoughts were consumed by my significant decision as we headed towards the parking lot. Doubts crept in. Should I make the final call? After nearly 10 years of planning, I questioned the timing and necessity of it all. Amanda reached for my hand, but I deflected her gesture by retrieving the car keys from my pocket. Though we were still some distance from my SUV, I noticed our neighbor Kathy casting a quizzical glance my way. "It's all right, Mark," Amanda reassured me. "I understand how you're feeling." If only you truly did, I pondered, my thoughts drifting back to the past in the pivotal moment that set everything in motion. I remember Amanda and I had just celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary, and it happened to be an election year. During that time, the politicians vying for office were accusing each other of being bigger thieves and liars. I couldn't help but wonder, when these corrupt politicians passed away, would they require a grave to bury them, or would they simply screw into the ground? That afternoon, I retrieved the mail and was pleased to find a padded envelope among the usual junk mail and bills. I had won a bid for a set of SD cards on eBay, and the delivery was long overdue. However, my anticipation turned to disappointment when I opened the padded envelope to find another bulging manila envelope inside. "Damn!" I exclaimed, opening the attached letter. I hope I didn't get scammed with this bid. That would ruin my day. Little did I know. Not only was my current day about to be ruined, but many days to come as well. "Dear Amanda, I trust this message finds you well. I've recently acknowledged my struggle with alcohol addiction and have begun working through it with the support of my higher power and sponsor. I am now proud to say I've been clean and sober for 90 days. As part of my recovery process, I'm taking steps to make amends to those I've wronged. Regarding our past interactions, I'm eager to make things right, but I'm uncertain about the best approach. Only now, in my newfound sobriety, do I fully realize the impact of our actions, and I want to express my sincere regret without causing you further distress. Though it feels like a difficult decision, I must humbly ask for your forgiveness. If you prefer, I'm willing to respect your wishes and refrain from any further contact. Please do as you see fit with the enclosed items. I lack the strength to discard them, yet I know holding on to them only perpetuates the temptation and memories they represent. With warm regards, Josh." As I turned the now torn padded envelope over to examine its front, it became apparent that it was addressed to my wife, Amanda. "Josh, regret our actions?" I muttered aloud, puzzled. What actions? The only Josh I knew was a former neighbor who had relocated some time ago. Josh was one of those individuals who seemed directionless, residing in his parents' basement, frequently inebriated. He purported to run a photography business. Josh was a decade older than both Amanda and me. He was what we affectionately termed a slinky, not particularly useful for anything, but capable of eliciting a chuckle when tumbling down the stairs. I vaguely recalled something about Josh being compelled to vacate the premises after his parents' passing, failing to keep up with property taxes or some such. My thoughts were in disarray, and it took a moment for me to realize that I still held the smaller manila envelope. Pushing aside the padded envelope and letter, I eagerly ripped open the bulging manila envelope. A cascade of 3.5 photos spilled out onto the table. Among them were several snapshots of Amanda, looking a decade younger, striking poses that bordered on risque. She wore a clingy blouse and shorts, outfits that triggered a sense of déjà vu. Flipping over one photo, I noticed there was no date. Stepping into my home office, I plucked a framed picture from the assortment of family photos on my desk. It depicted Amanda seated with our first son, taken when he was just a baby of less than a year old. Amanda had gifted me this photo for Christmas. In it, she wore the exact same outfit as in the newly arrived photos. Even the lighting bore a striking resemblance to the pictures I held in my hand. Turning over the framed photo, I discovered it was dated 9 years prior. I had a time frame to connect with the mysterious images. I sifted through the photographs, observing Amanda's transformation from coy poses to bearing it all. With each diminishing layer of clothing, my heart rate accelerated. The final set depicted Amanda engaged in explicit acts, a stark contrast to the innocent beginnings. Some shots seemed orchestrated by the person behind the camera, two more candid angles revealing intimate moments. Others appeared less controlled, perhaps taken remotely or with a tripod, evident in their off-center composition and slightly blurred focus. Collapsing into my desk chair, a wave of dizziness swept over me, as if all the blood had drained from my head. How long had Amanda been unfaithful? I mused aloud, glancing around at the collection of photographs on my desk featuring my family. I attempted to discern if any more of them bore Josh's imprint. The assortment depicted the progression of my family. There was Amanda on our wedding day, Amanda with my eldest son as a baby, followed by Amanda with both our boys as they grew. Except for the initial pictuary, all the authors bore the insignia of very small photo studios. Suddenly a dreadful thought crossed my mind. What if the boys weren't mine? I seized the most recent photo of my loving wife and our two boys. They were clad in their baseball uniforms from the summer league. I experienced a surge of pride that any father feels when gazing upon his offspring. Yet I endeavored to adopt a more critical perspective. While both boys shared their mother Amanda's facial features, they did appear to inherit my physique and jawline. As I reclined in the chair, exhaustion washed over me. This wasn't helping at all. Then a sudden thought struck me, propelling me to rummage through the desk drawers. Among the contents, I unearthed a medical form completed by my sons for their upcoming baseball season. Back in my day, such paperwork merely consisted of emergency contact information. Nowadays, it spanned almost 6 pages, detailing food allergies, insurance details, waivers, medication, and consent forms. It struck me how the paperwork for my kids' baseball league seemed to outweigh the significance of the treaty that ended World War II, which fit on a single sheet of paper. After some searching, I finally located the information I sought within the extensive form, the blood types filled out by our family physician. Retrieving my Red Cross blood donor card from my wallet, I confirmed my blood type. Oh, Amanda shared the same blood type. We often joked about the convenience of being able to donate to each other. Relief flooded over me as I discovered that my oldest son also had type O blood according to his form. With bated breath, I scanned through my younger son's form in search of his blood type information. The blood type boldly proclaimed itself as a positive in stark black letters. Though lacking a medical degree, even a novice high school biology student understands that two individuals with type O blood cannot conceive a child with type A blood. I had believed that my world couldn't fracture twice within an hour, yet it had. I gazed at the words, a positive on the screen, for what felt like an eternity, wishing fervently for them to alter, but they remained unchanged. "You cheating woman!" I screamed into the empty house, pounding my fist on the desk. My mind raced with chaotic thoughts. Should I end Amanda's life? No, I should leave Amanda. Perhaps murder, then departure. No, simply take the boys and depart from Amanda. My sons were 9 and 11. I suspected they would side with their father in a divorce if questioned. Or would they? Did they even have a choice? These mental acrobatics persisted for an hour, leaving me drained and devoid of solutions, only drowning in more queries. Eventually, exhaustion overwhelmed me, and I struggled to ascend the stairs. Collapsing into bed, the next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, observing my wife's back as she busied herself at the sink. I had skipped dinner the night before when she and the boys returned from the movies. After a restless night's sleep, I felt an odd calmness, almost like numbness. Nothing had changed in the house. Amanda looked the same as ever. Yet it felt as if someone had revealed all the magician's tricks to me. I was no longer in awe. Instead, I scrutinized her every action and intention. "Do you remember Josh, Amanda?" I inquired. Though I couldn't see her face, I sensed a momentary stiffness in Amanda's body before she responded. "Josh. Our old neighbor Josh? It's been ages since I heard that name," she remarked. I was just reminiscing about Josh and his photography hobby. He was always snapping pictures of the neighborhood kids. "Do you think he could be a criminal or something like that?" There was a hint of relief in Amanda's voice as she chuckled. "Trust me, Mark. Josh wasn't interested in children." "And how can you be so sure, Amanda?" I trailed off. Amanda wiped her hands on a dishcloth before summoning the boys for breakfast. "Seems like you were pretty familiar with Josh's antics, Amanda," I remarked. "Do you miss him?" "Not really," Amanda replied. "We lucked out when Kathy moved in. Our kids are practically inseparable now. Kathy, our kind neighbor, had taken over the mortgage on the house after Josh's bank foreclosed. A single mother, she used the life insurance money from her late police officer husband to buy it. With kids of the same age, ours and Kathy's quickly became close friends, always together. Since Kathy worked long hours as a single parent, we essentially adopted her kids. It was just as convenient to take 2 kids to a baseball game or a day at the beach as it was 4. They entertained each other well. Amanda often teased Kathy that we should claim her kids as dependents on our tax returns. As a single mother, Kathy lacked the skills to handle basic household repairs, so Amanda jokingly dubbed me a house husband. Although I wasn't quite prepared to star in this old house, I was proficient in most essential home maintenance tasks. My father, a skilled craftsman, often quipped, "If it can't be fixed with a hammer, it's an electrical problem." I didn't mind lending a hand at Kathy's place. She was attractive, a true MILF, although Kathy never made any advances toward me. Nor did I express any interest. My father instilled in us the value of keeping our promises, and I upheld my commitments. Amanda approached me and lightly slapped my shoulder in jest. "Mark, don't tell me you're jealous of Josh after all this time. The guilty conscience speaks first, Amanda." "Do I have any cause for jealousy?" Amanda took a seat at the table, avoiding eye contact as she stirred her coffee. "Of course not," she replied. "He might have been a good photographer if he wasn't constantly drinking." I reclined in my chair, silent. Amanda briefly glanced up from her coffee mug before resuming, "Seriously, Mark, we were just beginning. You were juggling 2 jobs and attending classes while I was confined to home with our baby all day. After enduring 10 hours of Barney and changing diapers, I craved adult interaction. Everyone in the neighborhood was busy. Josh was simply, well, he was there." I remained silent. Amanda's frustration escalated. "For heaven's sake, Mark, do you seriously believe I was out having affairs with some middle-aged drunk while the baby slept? Stop being so self-absorbed." I set aside my coffee mug. "Amanda, you seem quite unsettled. They say the best defense is a good offense. Do you have something to share with me?" Amanda's expression turned angry, and she abruptly stood up from the table. Our conversation was disrupted by the noisy entrance of the boys into the kitchen. I quietly stood up from my seat. As I made my way upstairs, I abandoned any thoughts of reconciliation. While I believed my anger towards Amanda would dissipate, I knew that trust, once broken, could never be fully restored. "Are you certain about going through with this?" questioned my brother Eric the following day in his office as he sifted through the photos, letters, and other documents I had brought him. Eric, my brother from another set of parents, hailed from Eastern Europe, where his parents fled during the Cold War era. They resided next to us during my upbringing. Tragically, Eric lost his parents in an accident when we were just 6 years old. Initially intended as a temporary arrangement, a social worker entrusted Eric's care to my family while they sought other relatives or foster care options. However, Eric ended up staying with us as his case seemed to slip through the cracks or got lost in the bureaucratic shuffle. During those early days, I didn't grasp the significance of Eric's presence. I treated it as an extended visit. It wasn't until later that I realized the financial strain it imposed on our working-class family. When I later questioned my mother about how we managed, she simply shrugged it off, saying, "We tightened our belts a bit, stretched the soup with more water." My father was always ready to help those in need. Despite being religious, he believed that faith should be demonstrated through actions rather than recitations, and he didn't place much value on organized religion. At the end of our supper prayers, he would always say, "May there be more around the table next time, and protect us from your followers, Lord." Dad treated Eric no differently than he did me and my brothers, which, given Dad's temper, could be both good and bad. When I asked Dad why he took in another mouth to feed when we were already struggling, he simply shrugged and said, "That's what a man does." Eric had very fair blonde hair, reflecting his Eastern European heritage, while I had darker skin due to our parents' Southern Italian background. It often raised eyebrows when we introduced each other as brothers. Once at a father-son event with my dad and Eric, someone commented that the mother must have a very fair complexion. My dad retorted, "Yeah, she's translucent." Eric studied diligently at the Faculty of Law, graduating with higher education. A prestigious law firm was looking for him, and he was steadily moving towards a partnership. Despite the fact that Eric worked more than 80 hours a week, he embodied the image of a promising lawyer. He had a luxury car, an apartment with a view of the city, and a rich bride of amazing beauty who accompanied him to high-profile events. However, Eric's world was shaken when his fiancée cheated on him with his partner right in the office. Despite the betrayal, Eric stayed at the firm until the end of the year to secure bonuses and benefits. Subsequently, he arranged for the departure of leading lawyers and major clients from the firm. This mass exodus eventually led to the collapse of his former workplace, which lasted for several more years before going bankrupt. Eric now operated a small law practice specializing in contracts, wills, and other legal matters. However, the bulk of his income came from serving as outside counsel for major trials. Married with 2 children, we remained close. Sorting through my paperwork, Eric remarked, "Mark, I believe you're still reeling from the shock. Take some time to gain perspective." "Like you did?" I retorted sarcastically. "You're my personal hero for how you handled that incident at your previous law firm." "Not everyone can be a hero," Eric replied, attempting to inject humor. "Some of us have to sit on the sidelines and applaud as the parade passes by." He then grew solemn. "Listen, Mark, your wife, Amanda, is a person. Most people struggle to see beyond themselves. We tend to only notice how we're treated and overlook the impact of our actions on others. Are you trying to channel Jobin now, Eric?" I sighed. "I want to get out of this mess. My revenge will be making sure that cheating woman gets nothing, and everyone knows what she did. I won't let Amanda think she can play games with me, and then use hormones as an excuse like I'm some kind of idiot." "All right, Mark, but remember that seeking revenge only gives someone power over you. It shows them they can affect you deeply. Don't give them that satisfaction. It's better to brush off the emotional harm. I know it's not immediately satisfying, but it's the best approach in the long run. Trust me, I've been there." Eric glanced at his computer keyboard. "I don't specialize in family law, but I know a guy from my old firm who's a real shark. They call him Mr. Big Shot because he always brings out the heavy artillery. This guy doesn't mess around. Are you absolutely sure you want to go this route? Go ahead and make the call, Eric." A week later, we found ourselves in a posh corner office downtown. Mr. Big Shot had just finished reviewing the extensive pile of documents I had brought in. Tax returns, pay stubs, mortgage payments, paternity tests, wills, and so forth. The list seemed never-ending. Mr. Big Shot removed his reading glasses before speaking. "Let it go." I was taken aback by these words from the formidable lawyer known for his tough stance. "I understand there's some connection between you and Eric, so I'll be frank. Let it go." It took me a moment to respond. "You mean I should just pretend it never happened, smile and accept being taken advantage of?" Mr. Big Shot reclined in his chair. "Exactly, unless you have video evidence of your wife, Amanda, force-feeding your children Red Bull as toddlers and organizing fights for profit." He gestured towards me. "Currently, you have a beautiful wife, a home, and 2 lovely children. But with a bit more effort, you could end up with a small apartment, no money, part-time custody of the kids, and your wife entertaining new male friends, all while you foot the bill. I'm talking about alimony, child support, taking over more than half of your earnings and savings. I was taken aback. Amanda has a job, and why should I be paying child support for a child who isn't even mine? Mr. Big Shot seemed amused. Mark, I'll gladly take your money if you insist, but let me enlighten you on the realities and the law. Whatever your wife earns from that insignificant part-time job at the hair salon is nowhere near your income. Therefore, alimony is inevitable. The only debate is the amount and duration. And regarding child support for a non-biological child, only 6 states in America allow a male parent to cease or avoid paying child support for a child not biologically his, but born while the couple was married. Unfortunately, we don't reside in one of those states. What if I discover that Amanda knew all along that it wasn't my son? Wouldn't that be considered fraud? Mr. Big Shot leaned in, resting his forearms on the massive desk. Let me share a little secret with you. Let's say we can prove your wife knew the child wasn't yours, but still represented him as yours. That would technically be fraud. However, it's a peculiar kind of fraud that carries no consequences and requires no repayment. Even if your wife openly admitted in a full-page ad in the New York Times that you weren't the father, there's no legal obligation for her to reimburse you or face any penalties in all 50 states. Remember that poor guy in Florida who was paying child support to a woman he wasn't even married to. He finally got a DNA test proving the child wasn't his, yet the court still ordered him to pay support, claiming it was in the best interests of the child. The case is probably still making its way through the courts, and by the time it's resolved, the child will likely be 18. But even if he wins, there's no chance he'll get any of that money back. I interjected. Can I at least attempt to reclaim some of the money from my wife's cheating boyfriend? Most states only permit the mother to pursue restitution. Only 2 states allow you, as the male, to attempt to recover funds. However, you must demonstrate that both the boyfriend and mother were aware of the deception. Additionally, you need to prove that there was a significant negative impact on the child's well-being and the quality of family life. And Mark, guess what? Unfortunately, this state does not have such a law. I reclined in my chair as he continued speaking. Consider if sacrificing a man's pride is worth more than half of his assets, along with spousal and child support. Money can't buy back his self-respect or restore his reputation. Is it preferable to end things and take a chance on finding someone who truly appreciates him rather than endure a loveless marriage? Perhaps a marriage counselor could assist them in overcoming these challenges. Mr. Big Shot dismissed the idea with a wave of his hand. Counseling is effective in less than 10% of cases in my experience. It often alerts the spouse, giving them time to prepare an exit plan. More than 2/3 of women in counseling end up filing for divorce. Additionally, over 55% of women who cheat eventually leave the marriage, while the odds are slightly better in states with shared custody laws. Unfortunately, we do not reside in one of those states. Our system is more of a winner-takes-all scenario. The odds heavily favor the mother here. How old are you guys? In your mid-30s? Yeah, I murmured, attempting to withstand the barrage of emotional punches. Mark, I regret to inform you, but statistically, the most common age for a wife to cheat on her partner is around 45. If your spouse has already been unfaithful, the likelihood of them doing so again increases significantly when they reach their 40s. The initial pain and guilt may have faded from the previous indiscretion, but the memories of what made it thrilling or exciting tend to linger and amplify over time. It's akin to a high school athlete who scored the winning point but suffered an injury in the process. The mind tends to downplay the pain while magnifying the significance of the achievement. The desire to relive that moment can become obsessive. While a middle-aged athlete might only be able to reminisce through their children's sports activities, a spouse may seek out extramarital relationships in an attempt to recapture the spark that led to the affair initially. Eric voiced the thought on everyone's mind. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Mr. Big Shot extended his hands with palms facing up. Nothing is absolute, but infidelity comes close to being the second most common cause of divorce, after money. I absolutely refuse to let that happen to me, I declared through clenched teeth. You can swear all you want, Mark, Mr. Big replied. Swearing is the middle ground between fleeing and fighting. Damn it, I muttered quietly. Is it more economical to stay together? Mr. Big mused. Extramarital affairs are a concern for 68% of married couples. When children are involved, the situation becomes more complex. Children of divorced parents are at higher risk of substance abuse, promiscuity, depression, and anger issues. In divorce, there are no true winners. The children are always the ones who suffer the most. Suddenly, I remembered the conversation with my father when we found out we were expecting a child. Many men become fathers, but not all fathers embody true manhood. A real man prioritizes his children above all else. If there's not enough food, he goes hungry. If there's not enough shelter, he bears the cold. If there's not enough money, he goes without. Strength is crucial. You must be unwavering in your support for your family, not just putting on a facade of strength, but actually being resilient enough to seek and accept help when necessary. You'll never truly understand your strength until it's all you have. You may often find yourself mistaken, but you must never waver in your convictions. This is an inherent trait of true masculinity. Your efforts may go unappreciated, perhaps even ridiculed, but a genuine man doesn't seek recognition. He acts for the betterment of his family, his children, embodying true manhood. I sprang from my seat and reached out to Mr. Bigshot. I want to express my gratitude for all your insights. I've gained a wealth of legal knowledge. However, I don't believe I'll require your services at this time. How much do I owe you for your time? Mr. Big grinned as he leaned in for a handshake. No charge, Mark. Just two old legal pals having a chat. He turned to my brother, Eric. Plus, I owe your brother big time for pulling me out of a rut in our old firm. I'm doing much better now, all thanks to him. Feel free to reach out anytime. My door is always open to you both. I mean it. As we were driving back in Eric's car, I asked him, Eric, why didn't you quit right after you found your fiancé with a mentor? Why did you work at this firm for almost a year? I noticed Eric's jaw tightened before he answered. My initial impulse really was to quit immediately. He chuckled slightly. Actually, that was my second impulse. My first wish was to tell the old scoundrel everything I think after I dragged him away from my fiancée. Eric paused to switch the radio station. As soon as I left him lying there with her, I went to my office and wrote my resignation letter. So why didn't you turn him in? I was furious. Mark. Then I started feeling sorry for myself. Then I remembered my father's words about self-pity. Together, imitating our father's voice, we recited, Boys, you can feel sorry for yourself as much as you want, but it won't lead to anything. Let me know when you're done. We laughed together before Eric continued, Anyway, I realized that I have no reason to let the actions of these two people deprive me of the reward for my hard work. The next day, something unprecedented happened. The most senior partner visited me. He expressed sympathy for the misunderstanding between me and my former mentor. What nonsense! I made a significant contribution to the work of the company, and he was only worried that I would leave and take with me valuable bills and paid hours of work. He made various promises to me, but I insisted that everything be in writing. From that moment on, I was determined not to let anyone control my happiness. I even kept this woman with me for a few pleasant meetings. Why not? It's not that we're inexperienced or unfamiliar with each other. The moment I found something better, she left. It's the same with the law firm. The day my contract expired, I quit there too. I internalized my brother's advice. Since then, I prioritized my own happiness while remaining committed to upholding my father's belief that our children come first. Amanda faded into insignificance in my eyes. I resolved to minimize my interactions with her as much as possible. This became even easier a week after my meeting with Mr. Bigshot. The salon offered me a full-time manager position. I'll initially have to work evenings and weekends, but I'm confident you and the boys can handle making your own dinners for a while. This arrangement worked out perfectly. I left for work before Amanda woke up, and by the time I returned home, she was already at her job as a salon manager. I was fast asleep by the time she finished work. On her days off, I told Amanda that I was participating in a darts league. In reality, I decided to attend a few sessions with a therapist on my own. I realized that I wasn't any more messed up than the average person, But more importantly, I discovered that, apart from my responsibilities to my children, I was responsible for my own happiness. Whatever Amanda had done, was doing, or would do was beyond my control. We are constantly faced with temptations, and it's our own weaknesses and responsibility when we succumb to them. As I no longer trusted Amanda, my feelings towards her changed. Eventually, I reached a point where I didn't care about her actions anymore. While the initial intensity of my hatred towards her actions faded over time, the negative feelings remained. My focus was solely on my children. Amanda became more like a roommate with benefits. She was so engrossed in her job that I doubt she even noticed. Meanwhile, the boys and I were having a blast. I secured a substantial home equity loan and used it to add a swimming pool and outdoor deck, and transformed our basement into the ultimate man cave. I traded in my mundane car for a massive SUV with terrible gas mileage. With prime seat season tickets to every sporting event, my boys, Kathy's kids, and I traveled in style. Serving as the teen chauffeur in my SUV, I could fit the entire team and all their gear comfortably. Win or lose, we celebrated with trips to the local pizza parlor or ice cream shop, all on my tab. Kathy often joined us on our outings, and many mistook us for one big family. I joked, earning a puzzled look from Kathy each time. Amanda consistently declined invitations, attributing it to her busy work schedule, fatigue, or a desire to unwind on her days off. Eventually, the boys ceased to ask. My eldest son and Kathy's firstborn attended the same college, with hers receiving a partial scholarship. Kathy was unaware that I had covered the remaining expenses for her son. 3 years later, a similar situation unfolded with our last children. Now we're brought to the present moment and my current dilemma. Should I stay or leave? Should I embrace change or stick with the current situation? Amanda sat on our outdoor deck, savoring the final moments of summer, gazing out over the pool with a wine glass in hand. I returned from clearing out the remnants of our trip from the SUV. As I settled into a lounge chair opposite her, Amanda had her eyes closed. "Mark, the house feels so empty now that the boys are gone," Amanda said, taking another sip of her wine. "It's quite a change, but I'm ready for something new." Having finally made my decision, I silently thought, "Oh, just you wait, honey, change is coming." I placed the papers on the glass table between us. "Amanda, I don't think we should continue to be together. I want a divorce." Amanda bolted upright from her seat and snatched the papers, swiftly scanning through them. "What on earth is this rubbish, Mark?" "Amanda, these are just copies of the divorce petition. Once you have your lawyer, my attorney will send the official ones to them. I've been fair, you can see. The savings. Are you out of your mind?" Amanda nearly yelled. "After 20 years, you're leaving me. Now after everything we've been through." She continued to pore over the papers. "No alimony? Where's the division of savings? Shared house debt? What are you trying to do?" I attempted to remain composed. "Our salaries are comparable, and we have similar amounts saved in our retirement accounts." That statement held true because I had foregone any raises that came with my recent promotions, and had minimized my contributions to the 401k after using it to cover my son's college expenses. Amanda seemed stunned, continuously flipping through documents. "Our salaries are only the same because I work twice as many hours as you. I'm not selling my house. I've put too much effort into it. Amanda, considering the home equity loan, we're underwater on the house. Where do you think the money came from for this deck, your new kitchen?" She slammed the papers onto the table. "We're not divorcing, and that's final." Suddenly, it seemed like a light bulb illuminated in her mind. "You despicable creature," Amanda spat, jabbing her finger at me. "You found someone else. I gave you the best years of my life, and now you want to leave me for some young girl." Her face flushed with anger. "How long have you been betraying me? You deceitful swine." "Please," I sighed, "let's not delve into that. It doesn't matter why. This is a no-fault state. Everything, assets and debts alike, will be split evenly." But Amanda was far from appeased. "Oh, you're mistaken, mister. It does matter. I want to know, and I deserve to know. Who have you been cheating on me with?" I shook my head and spoke softly. Yes, there has been infidelity, but please let's not dwell on it. It's best if we just. My vision blurred for a moment when Amanda threw her wine glass at me, flooding my face. When I got up and went to the kitchen, I felt the glass ricochet off my back and smash on the floor. Amanda, overcome with anger, followed me on my heels, continuing her verbal attacks while I rinsed my face in the sink. You pathetic cheater. You can't just leave me because you want to have fun with some girl. No wonder our relationship has deteriorated over the past few years. Well, let me tell you something, mister. I've had many opportunities in the past, but I've never. Amanda's tirade came to an abrupt end when I turned around and methodically laid out photos of her and Josh engaged in explicit activities on the kitchen table. With each new photo I posted, the shock on her face intensified. She turned pale and hurried to the sink, fighting nausea. I sorted through the photos and took a seat at the kitchen table. Well, Amanda, it seems like you made the most of the opportunities you had in the past, I said as she rinsed her mouth with tap water, then splashed her face and dried it with a towel before joining me at the table. Please, Mark, put those away. Amanda pushed the stack of photos towards me with one finger, treating them as if they were a venomous snake. I placed the photos into an envelope and tossed them into a drawer behind me. Amanda buried her face in her hands. Oh my God, I don't know what to say. I was tired. It doesn't really matter, Amanda. I don't care. Amanda reached for my arm. Mark, please listen. It was only that one time. You have to trust me on this. No, Amanda, I don't have to trust you on this. And I don't. I leaned back in my chair. I mean, what? You would never lie about cheating. Amanda gripped my arm tighter. It feels like ages ago now. I never realized how tough being a mother would be. I was constantly sleep-deprived with the baby, and you were exhausted from work. I felt like I was losing myself, just becoming another mom or your wife. I pulled my arm away. I was juggling 2 jobs and studying, all for the sake of our family, so I don't really want to hear about being tired, I said. Mark, I understand. Amanda pleaded. I wish I could undo it all. Josh was just a fun drunk. Sometimes his mom would be there to watch the baby for a few minutes, giving me a chance to be around adults for a little while, to maintain my sanity. Ignoring me, she continued, Josh always had a drink in his hand, and eventually I'd take a sip or two. He loved taking pictures of me with his high-speed shutter camera. I started goofing around, pretending it was some big modeling shoot. Josh encouraged it, saying how great I looked. Unnatural how the camera adored me. Amanda bit her lip, meeting my gaze. It was just harmless fun that spiraled out of control. I pulled down my shirt to show my shoulder or lifted up a bit to reveal my belly button. Before I knew it, I was down to my bra. It didn't seem like a big deal, considering people show more at the beach. I saw tears welling up in Amanda's eyes. So one day, when I mentioned that I wanted to give you a photo for Christmas, Josh offered to take a photo for free. Everything went very well. The picture turned out great. Our son fell asleep right after that on the couch in Josh's studio. She wiped a tear from her eye. I thought he was going to get some sleep, and I didn't want to wake him up, so Josh and I had a drink. Well, one sip led to a bottle, and, well, in between my red days and your crazy schedule, you and I haven't had bed intimacy in a long time, I muttered. Oh my God, Mark, I'm so ashamed. I do not know what came over me. I was like that. Such. Amanda paused. A girl of easy virtue, I suggested. Wait, I take it back. You sold your marriage for a photo. Amanda dropped her head on the table and sobbed. I'd mentally berated myself. I wouldn't treat a stranger in such a manner, let alone someone I once deeply cared for. Please sign the papers. We'll simply say we drifted apart. Nobody beyond our immediate family needs to know, Mark urged. Amanda lifted her tear-stained face from the table. It doesn't have to be like this, Mark. Please, that was so long ago. It was insignificant, just a blip, a meaningless mistake with no lasting impact. I retrieved another set of papers from the folder, placing them in front of Amanda as she glanced over them. Amanda, every action carries consequences, some more significant than others. What's this, Mark? Amanda questioned, examining the charts and graphs spread across the pages. Amanda, those are DNA test results and blood types from our family. As you can see, one of us doesn't match, I explained. Amanda clutched her chest, gasping for air. Hurriedly, I fetched a paper bag from the kitchen closet. Breathe into this, Amanda, I instructed, placing the bag in her trembling hands. You're hyperventilating. Just slow down. Take natural breaths. In through your nose. Easy does it. After a minute, Amanda's breathing steadied. I returned to my seat at the table as she set the paper bag down, her color gradually returning. Amanda, you knew all along, I stated, more an observation than a question. Amanda began to shake her head, fingers twisting the paper bag in her hands. I had my suspicions, but I held on to hope. I prayed, but I never knew for sure. Her sentence trailed off. Amanda, please, I urge. You graduated high school with honors in biology, if I remember correctly. You must have thought I was a fool when I bought into that whole premature birth, baby arriving early nonsense you fed me. I shook my head. Can you blame me for struggling to believe anything you say, when not only did you deceive me, but you had me raising another man's child? It wasn't like that, Mark, Amanda protested. After Josh and I felt so ashamed. I couldn't bear anyone's touch, not even yours. I promised myself I would be the best mother and wife, but when I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. I had nightmares about you leaving me, taking our son, making me do something terrible. Amanda, did I ever threaten you during our time together? Did I ever make you do anything against your will? You know how much family means to me, how I was raised. I paused, rubbing my temples. If you had come to me, we could have worked through it. Instead, you chose to lie. It was just one lie, Mark. No, Amanda, it wasn't just one lie. It was a lie every day until now. Every day you chose to live and perpetuate a lie. I had no choice, Amanda pleaded. You had a choice all along, Amanda. You could have come to me at any time. Instead, you opted to perpetuate that falsehood, and I'm uncertain how many others. Now it's up to me. Please, Mark, Amanda pleaded. Don't tell the boys. Amanda, the era of deceit has ended. Children exposed to secrecy and lies lose trust in what they're told. They become insecure and reliant. When the family's foundation eventually crumbles, there may be no genuine connections left. The children feel abandoned, so it's either you inform them, or I do. Oh my God, Amanda exclaimed. What do I say? Boys, your mother made a terrible mistake and betrayed your father. I couldn't help but smile. Well, Amanda, you might want to omit that part about the cheap, lying, ungrateful girl from the slums. How about we explain to the boys that their mother made an error, but they are still both our sons, and our love for them remains unchanged. The boys handled it quite well. It seemed that given the prevalence of step-parents, two-parent households, and blended families among their friends, our situation didn't faze them much. Amanda, on the other hand, was resentful. She kept insisting we could find a solution, lamenting the waste of the house we had put so much effort into. But I had reached my limit and just wanted to move forward. Interestingly, dealing with the house turned out to be more challenging than the divorce itself. Our bank, Megabank, made it incredibly difficult to return the property. They thwarted our attempts at short sales and provided inconsistent information, with different representatives giving conflicting answers to the same questions. The paperwork was overwhelming, and it felt like we were single-handedly depleting Washington State's forests with our written requests alone. Thankfully, my brother Eric enlisted the help of a legal expert in real estate transactions and laws, who quickly demonstrated that Megabank had not only violated their own policies, but also numerous state and federal regulations designed to safeguard homeowners facing underwater mortgages. In a strange turn of events, Megabank ended up owing us money. Despite being served with 4 registered letters, they failed to appear for the court hearing, resulting in a default judgment that awarded us the house along with court and attorney fees. Things took a dramatic turn when our attorney, accompanied by 2 armored sheriffs, a writ, and a moving company, arrived at a branch of Megabank to seize assets, furniture, computer equipment, etc. After the bank ignored numerous notices to pay attorney fees, local media swarmed the scene, and bystanders even joined in to help remove bank fixtures as the astonished bank manager struggled to reach someone higher up. With his office phone seized, the manager resorted to using his personal cell phone. Our attorney and we briefly became celebrities when the David beats Goliath story gained national attention. While grateful for the unexpected acquisition of the house, it complicated our divorce settlement. Amanda was adamant about not selling the house immediately. After much deliberation, she agreed to compensate me half of its rental value and cover utilities like gas, electricity, and water. We would split insurance and taxes equally, with any future sale proceeds to be divided evenly. After my recent divorce, like any middle-aged man, I rented a shabby apartment temporarily while I figured out my next steps. Naturally, I decided to join a gym in an attempt to get back in shape. Despite my aversion to the gym, I found myself at the reception area, dreading the upcoming session with my personal trainer, when I heard a familiar voice. "Mark, oh my goodness, it's wonderful to see you." I turned around to see my former neighbor, Kathy. She looked fantastic, dressed in tight workout attire adorned with the gym's logo. Kathy greeted me with a hug, her physique as firm as ever, and I couldn't help but feel a similar reaction. "Kathy, you look amazing," I said as she released me. "What brings you here?" "I work here, Mark." "Well, part-time at least," Kathy replied, glancing at the clipboard she was holding. "And it seems I'll be your personal trainer tonight. So which machine do you want to start with?" How about the vending machine?" I joked. "I'll buy you a candy bar of your choice." Kathy chuckled and led me through a maze of intimidating workout equipment, a far cry from what I remembered from my high school gym days. I made an effort to conceal any vulnerability, but after 90 minutes I had vomited twice. In typical pseudo-macho fashion, I fibbed, attributing my frequent trips to the bathroom to excessive coffee consumption at the office. The weights at the gym must have been in metric because pounds never felt that heavy. Kathy took pity on me and agreed to meet at a coffee shop after I hobbled off to the locker room. She appeared fresh and radiant as she held onto my arm while we waited in line at a local cafe, whereas I felt utterly drained. "Kathy, when did ordering coffee become so complicated?" I remarked, bewildered by her detailed specifications to the cashier. I remember when there were just 3 options: small, medium, and large. "Mark, just tell the barista what you want, and he'll whip something up for you." "Barista? Good grief." I shook my head in disbelief. "All right then, give me something a guy could drink at a football game without getting teased." Kathy playfully swatted my shoulder as we found a table. "Mark, I really miss you." "Hell, Kathy, you just miss having someone to handle the free home repairs." Kathy gently blew on her coffee before responding. "Well, there's that. I'm sorry about you and Amanda," she said, taking a sip. "It's hard to believe that she cheated on you." I nearly choked on my coffee. "What? Who? How? How did you find out?" Kathy paused for a moment, then set down her cup. "No one told me. I've known you and Amanda for a long time," she explained. "It's just an old cop's wife intuition. Amanda always had that hope I don't get caught. Look what I got away with vibe about her." I pondered Kathy's words. "So Amanda never confided in you?" She shrugged. "No, Mark. Would it make a difference to you if she did? If you knew more details?" I shook my head. "No, it's not just about the cheating, although that's part of it. It's more about the lies and the lack of trust. I have as much chance of trusting Amanda again as a blind man with a microscope. Without trust," I gestured. "What's the point? The marriage is over." I attempted to lighten the atmosphere by recounting the humorous tale of our home bank repo encounter, along with the peculiar situation of sharing a house with Amanda, which got Kathy laughing. I found myself thoroughly enjoying the moment, losing track of time as we both relished in the conversation. Suddenly, Kathy glanced at her watch. "I hate to cut this short, Mark, but I need to leave. The last bus is about to depart." "No problem, Kathy." "I'll give you a lift." "Thanks a lot. My car won't start. I suspect it's the starter. And with work cutting my hours, money's been tight. I'll have to wait until payday to get it fixed." I checked my watch. Forget waiting, Kathy. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Let's grab a starter and fix it now. We can make it to the auto parts store before they close. That would be amazing, Mark. I've been leaving home 3 hours early every day for the past month just to catch the buses. And it's still a 30-minute walk from the nearest stop to work. Kathy hesitated. But I don't have the money right now. I gestured for her to dismiss it. Forget about it. You really need a car. We'll sort out the repayment once you're in a better financial position. Plus, all my tools and belongings are still in Amanda's garage. I haven't gotten around to moving them yet. Standing up, I extended my arm to her. Come on, fair lady, the Prius hybrid chariot awaits. Kathy gave me a perplexed look. A hybrid Prius? What happened to that monstrous, macho, manly SUV of yours? I grimaced. I got tired of constantly stopping at gas stations. I felt like my carbon footprint was destroying a section of the rainforest every day. Everyone keeps giving me judgmental looks as if I've done something wrong. Kathy looked amused. I just can't picture you in a hybrid. Yeah, I can practically feel my testosterone levels dropping as I squeeze into that plastic jelly bean. You know how it is with us guys. Size matters. She chuckled as I held the car door open for her. We had a stroke of luck when we found a starter for Kathy's car at the auto store, and to top it off, it was on sale. Although Amanda wasn't home, I still had the garage door code. With the right tools and 90 minutes later, I had Kathy's car running smoothly. Kathy was thrilled and hugged me tightly, planting a big kiss on my lips. I couldn't reciprocate the embrace as I had a greasy tool in hand. However, another tool further south was making its presence known. If Kathy noticed, she didn't mention it. While cleaning up, I noticed the water spigot wouldn't completely shut off, and the drain was slow. Drying my hands, I gestured towards the sink. Kathy, why didn't you let me know? I could have fixed that. Mark, I knew you and Amanda were dealing with bigger problems. I didn't want to bother you with trivial things. Besides, with the work cutbacks, I couldn't afford. She turned away, but I caught a glimpse of tears in her eyes. I'm not someone to be pitied. I approached her and draped my arm over her shoulder. This isn't charity, it's just one neighbor lending a hand. I reassured her with a gentle squeeze. Plus, I've got plenty of free time now, and it seems like you've got some tasks that could use attention. How about we jot down a list and, like Kris Kringle, double check it? Now be a dear and fetch me a pen and some paper. Kathy dabbed her eyes, but a faint smile graced her lips as she faced me. All right, Santa, but if you're too generous, I can't promise I won't be a bit mischievous. For the following fortnight, I found myself frequently visiting Kathy's house during my spare time. There wasn't any major renovation needed, just a lot of minor tasks like repairing screen mesh, fixing rusty door hinges, and caulking splash guards. Although I didn't get to witness her naughty side, I cherished our time together. One evening, after sharing a few glasses from a bottle of wine, Kathy opened up about her first husband. He was a good man, Mark, always lending a hand to others. He was tragically killed when a drunk driver collided with him. He wasn't even on duty at the time. He had stopped on his way home from the gym to assist a lady with a flat tire. The damn drunk didn't even slow down. She paused to take another sip of her drink, but he was a fighter. He held on for 4 days. You know the last thing he said to me? I remained silent. Kathy, tears streaming down her face, shared. The last words my husband uttered were not for himself, but for his family. She paused, overwhelmed with emotion. He said, "Take care of our boys. Take care of our boys and take care of yourself." I approached her and offered comfort as she continued. I never anticipated it would be like this. Since he was off duty, we didn't receive any survivor benefits. His modest life insurance policy helped us secure this house. The police force looks after their own and his colleagues were always supportive. However, I had to relocate. Despite their kindness, being around them only served as a constant reminder of his passing. I never imagined it would be this difficult. I allowed Kathy to cry, understanding that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. The following morning, I found myself beneath the bathroom sink, repairing the drain, when I felt a tap on my foot. Mark, where did you disappear to last night? I heard Kathy's voice inquire. I went back to my shabby little apartment. I responded, removing the drain trap. You were pretty out of it, so I made sure you were in bed before I left. Emerging from under the sink, I extended my hand to show Kathy the clogged drain trap. Goodness gracious, look at all this hair. Have you been bathing a mongoose in the sink? Suddenly the front door burst open, and I heard footsteps, accompanied by a high-pitched voice. Where is he? What are you doing with my husband, you wretched woman? As I pulled my head out from under the sink, banging my forehead in the process, I caught sight of Amanda's feet in the bathroom doorway. You wretch! Amanda screamed at Kathy. Leave him alone. I sprang to my feet, positioning myself between a startled Kathy and an infuriated Amanda. Amanda, what are you doing here? I asked, attempting to calm the situation. Amanda redirected her attention from Kathy to me. Mark, I know exactly what's going on, she exclaimed. Every night you're leaving this woman's house disheveled and sweaty like you've been working in the fields. I know what you've been up to. She paused, seemingly trying to compose herself. I understand you're trying to get back at me, but you've had your fun with this woman. It's time for us to reconcile. I was so stunned that I couldn't say a word. Amanda, reconciliation is not an option, a missed opportunity. And besides, Katie and I didn't have anything. I felt Katie's arms wrap around me from behind before she spoke. That's right, Amanda. Nothing happened. But you know what? That's going to change soon. My husband, God rest his soul, always told me to take care of myself. And I'm going to start right now by taking your ex-husband upstairs and doing everything I can with him. Amanda and I stood speechless. Katie moved away from me and, taking Amanda by the hand, led her out the open front door. Don't be a stranger, but call me first. We'll be busy for a while. With that, Katie closed the door behind Amanda, who was still silent. When Katie came back to me, I finally found my voice. Katie, it happened. Something. Thanks for the support and self-esteem boost, but it wasn't necessary. Katie stood right in front of me. I asked, are you sure you want to continue? Katie hugged me. Mark, I've known you longer than I've known my husband. I loved him like no one else and fulfilled my obligations to him by raising our boys. Now it's time to fulfill another promise made to him, to take care of himself. With that, she took my hand and led me upstairs to the bedroom. I couldn't determine who was more anxious. I was apprehensive about not messing things up, and Kathy hadn't been in a relationship with a man for nearly 20 years. However, much like riding a bike, we maintained our balance and found the right pace. The conversation took an intriguing turn when Kathy asserted, "You should move in with me." It was a declaration, not a question. Wait, that's quite a bold statement. Aren't you concerned this might just be a rebound? Katie propped herself up on her elbow, allowing me to take a look at her amazing body. Mark, we've been friends for the better part of our lives, she began. Raising her hand to halt any interjection from me, she continued. We're too mature to engage in games. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. You need a place to stay, and I have a vacancy. I value you, and you value me. I have my needs, and you have yours. Why pay rent to some anonymous landlord? If it eases your mind, you can allocate what you pay in rent towards the mortgage. Besides, you're more familiar with this house than anyone else. But Kathy, won't it be awkward with... I gestured across the street to my former residence where Amanda resided. Kathy merely shrugged. Not my concern. I've moved past worrying about others' opinions. Your opinion is what matters. Your old house is still under your name. That's a significant investment. And what better way to safeguard it than by keeping an eye on it every day? And so we complied. It felt strange for a period. Amanda harbored lingering bitterness over the entire ordeal. She appeared incapable of moving forward. Damn it, Mark. When are you coming back home? This is madness. You know you belong with me. What can I do? I'm sorry for everything. Just tell me what needs to be done to make this all disappear. I capped the sealant before responding. Amanda, I know you're sorry, and so am I. The truth is, we're not reconciling. You need to carry on with your life. find someone else. Like who? Amanda retorted. I work in a salon with non-traditional hairdressers, and most of my clients are first wives. She glanced at the ground. I never thought I'd be one of them. I remained silent and began gathering my tools. Please, Mark, Amanda begged. Can't you give me another chance? Let's forgive and forget for the sake of our boys. With the holidays approaching, it's important for us to be together. Amanda, I've forgiven you. But you had opportunities every day for over a decade that you chose to ignore. As for forgetting, I shook my head. The holidays are indeed approaching. The boys will be back from school, and we can have separate dinners at both your and Kathy's houses with all the kids like we used to. Amanda crossed her arms defiantly. I refuse to have that woman in my house. I won't set foot in that woman's house, she declared. I simply shrugged. I suppose we'll miss you. I anticipated that the holidays might be uncomfortable for the children, given the new living arrangements between their parents. However, my concern proved to be unnecessary as both sets of kids adapted well. It's a positive outcome, but it's surprising how little seems to faze their generation, isn't it? The boys managed to attend 2 dinners to avoid upsetting either mother. Eventually, the kids convinced Amanda to make a brief visit to Kathy's house by Christmas. Although Kathy invited her to stay longer, Amanda declined. Kathy assures me that she holds no ill will towards Amanda and is fine with me spending time at her house for repairs or events involving my boys and Amanda. I doubt they'll ever rekindle their friendship as it once was, but Amanda seems to be warming up and at least being civil towards Kathy as time goes on. After being together for a year, I'm incredibly happy. It's not the fiery passion of our youth, but a deeper, more mature love based on affection and respect. However, I felt a sense of duty and broached the topic of legalizing our relationship with Kathy. Mark, Kathy said, cupping my face in her hands, you're amazing and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But I made a promise to myself to only marry once. I hope you can understand. Truth be told, I struggled to understand, but I recalled my father's advice. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.